What polarizing, aging NFC wide receiver will make or break your fantasy season? How should you handle one tricky AFC North running back situation? I think you know which one I'm talking about. And what tight end continues to be undervalued by FFPC drafters? Plus, FFPC League Champ and 2026 Pros vs. Joe's drafter Griff Bushell hangs out to talk about his Pros vs. Joe's draft, his main event strategy, and so much more. We've got a great show for you. Ferrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. HSFF Hour Extra Reps starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than me, the lesser.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man, nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all of you Bulkaholics and Ferrelliacs. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour Extra Reps, presented by MyFFPC.com. That is the Fantasy Football Players Championship. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. You may know me from the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, FFPC Insider Access on the Better Sports Network, the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, and of course, the FFPC, MyFFPC.com, the Fantasy Football Players Championship. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Ferrell Elliott. Bring him in shortly. Coming up on tonight's show, we're going to get to everything we didn't get to on Wednesday's show. And my God, it was a jam-packed Wednesday show, but we got more great content for you tonight. And then FFPC League Champ and 2026 Pros vs. Joe's drafter Griff Bushell is going to join us to talk Garrett Wilson. He's going to discuss Jordan Love and so much more. If you want to connect with the show on X, it's at HSFF Hour. Check out the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. Post on our Facebook page, Facebook.com/HSFF Hour. Email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, send them in now. We'll try to get to all the emails, all the YouTube posts, and all the X questions coming up throughout the show tonight. No fantasy feedback tonight because it's extra reps. We let our hair down. Anything can happen, and it usually does. I want to shout out our audio engineer and my best friend Breece, and of course, our mutual friend and producer Rob. The FFPC Big Gorilla is filling up fast. It is $1 million grand prize. It is just $350 to enter. Why should you enter this? Multitude of reasons. Number one, you are going to get a $50 discount off each third team you buy. So you get a 3-pack discount, $50 off. The championship round is going to pay all the way down to 800 spots, not 200, not 500, 800 spots in the championship round. And you can win $1 million for just a $350 entry fee. The 7 Bananas promo is live. If you randomly get that 7 pick multiple times in a row, we're going to throw escalating FFPC free teams at you. Starts off with a $125 FFPC Best Ball Tournament team, goes up to a main event, goes up to High Society. And if you get that 7 pick 5 times in a row, you are going to get a Jungle Safari for 4 or $50,000. That's not even, it doesn't matter what team you draft. It doesn't matter how good you do. If you get the 7 pick 5 times in a row, which we had one player come within 1 pick of doing last year, you win $50,000. I mean, it's insane. Why wouldn't you play in the FFPC Big Gorilla at myffpc.com? Take your shot at $1 million grand prize right now. Now, if you are looking to compete in the KFFSC against me and many of the other guests that you see on this show, check it out at KFFSC.com. Plenty of main event online stuff going on. There is a big payback going on live in Louisville, which I'll be at in a couple of weeks. In fact, 2 weeks from today, I'll be there. Very excited about that. Or 1 week from today. 1 week from today. Apologize. 1 week from today, I'll be in Louisville drafting a bunch of teams. KFFSC.com is where to go to check out everything the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship has to offer. And the guy who runs the whole thing joins me right now. He is the incomparable, as I always say, Ferrell Elliott. Ferrell, good Friday evening to you, sir.
Buddy, good Friday evening to you. And I don't know if I run it or it runs me. I'm beginning to think. Last couple of days, it's been running me. but it's a labor of love, and we enjoy doing it. And I look forward to seeing you and everyone else looks forward to seeing you.
I always think that too, and like we've heard this over the years too, Ferrell, that a lot of FFPC players, this is going back probably 20 years now, but a lot of FFPC players didn't know what the KFFSC was, and we have told them. And now you hosting this show, it's been easy for us to get this word out. For a lot of people who are drafting live in Vegas or even drafting in the FFPC from the comfort of their own home, a lot of people have come out to Kentucky to draft live because they will be drafting against a lot of the people they're drafting against in Las Vegas. And it's good prep for winning $1 million. Why not take a chance and draft some teams at the KFFSC live events? Not only Northern Kentucky, which you have going on this weekend, but then the following weekend in Louisville, there has been a lot of high stakes players that have come to the KFFSC over the years. Drew Maselli is one of them.
Yes.
I shouldn't mention individual names because
why not? They're always good to talk about.
Well, Chad Schroeder is drafted there, whatever. Like there's a ton of people that have drafted live in Kentucky, and I'll be there again this year. I'm very excited for it. And if you are, like I always say, Fantasy Mojo, get a subscription to that. If you're playing in the FFPC, if you're drafting in the FFPC main event, not a bad idea to come out to Louisville, have a fantastic time drafting teams and prep for the main $1 million in FFPC, and still try to win the main event grand prize as well.
And Balky, since meeting Dave and Alex and yourself and all the crew at the FFPC, it has been a standard that our top 5 finishers earn a bid, that we pay the bid. We pay the way for those players to participate in the FFPC. And sometimes we've introduced the FFPC to those drafters. Many times the top 5 finishers have plenty of FFPC experience. This time, 4 of our 5 had either never played in the FFPC. 4 of our top 5 finishers and 25 had never played in the FFPC or had never played live in the FFPC. And so it's giving them a great opportunity this year. I'm looking forward to all our guys being in Las Vegas and have success. And I dream of that day that one of them parlays a top 5 KFFSC finish to a big finish, if not a championship in the FFPC. That would be my dream of fantasy football come true.
If that happens, we would probably almost have to make this show a permanent 3-host show, right? Where if somebody wins their way into the FFPC through being a top 5 finisher in the KFFSC main event, and then they win the $1 million, and I'll say it right now, you want to come on this show? If you do that, if you finish off the KFFSC and the FFPC that way, you have an open invitation to co-host this show each and every week, whenever you want, with me and Ferrell. So let's sweeten the pot here.
Yeah, there we go.
Pepper into the gumbo, which is great. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've left them hanging long enough. I want to bring on tonight's guest for extra reps. This is a player that has already had an FFPC league title under his belt. He drafted in the 2026 Pros vs. Joes Challenge this year, and he's got his sights set on that $1 million grand prize in the FFPC at myffpc.com. Getting in some extra reps tonight is the guy you connect with on X at Griffalicious24. That is Griffalicious24. Please welcome in to the show, Mr. Griff Bushell. Griff, good evening, sir.
Good evening. You nailed it. Thank you for the introduction.
Well, you're very welcome. It's well-deserved. I didn't say anything inaccurate in this. I appreciate you hopping aboard tonight. It's so funny because we have, the NFL season starting in less than 3 weeks. And I don't know where the time goes, Griff, but it's one of those things where it's like, oh, it's so far away. It's so far away. It's so far away. And then all of a sudden it's right upon us. And I think this is crazy with, all the preseason action that's going on and everything going on with training camp and everything. Taking advantage of that is so much fun in drafts right now. You've done it in both your main events that you've drafted so far, your Pros versus Joes that you've drafted. It is a wonderful time to be a fantasy football fan.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. All the injuries are keeping us very busy
Right.
on our toes, of course.
And I always say this too, like regarding the injuries, like, and I mentioned this on Wednesday night, at least I think I mentioned this on Wednesday night. Injuries happen, whether it's the preseason, the regular season, the playoffs, like what it's going to happen. And the best players always rebound. Like I never, and Ferrell knows this, I start drafting in January, and injuries be damned. NFL draft be damned. Free agency be damned. Like I'm always trying to cash in on the value as much as I can. And Griff, you probably agree with me, or maybe you wouldn't. I don't know. I'll let you weigh in on it. But with every injury represents an opportunity. It was Ocean's 12. You guys remember Ocean's 12? This is the movie part of the program where Elliot Gould's character said, every problem presents an opportunity, right? And every injury presents an opportunity in fantasy football. Well, we talked about on Wednesday night, the injury to Jordan Tyson. That's an opportunity for Vele. That's an opportunity for Barian Brown. That's an opportunity for Bryce Lance. The Pearsall injury a couple of weeks ago. That's an opportunity for Deebo Samuel. That's an opportunity for Dejon Stribling. So people always ask me, well, why do you draft so early with all this stuff going on? Now these guys are worthless. Well, yeah, they might be worthless this year, but think about all those other players. If you were drafting earlier enough, you have the opportunity of getting really good values on them at this point. And by the way, guys are going to continue to get injured for these last 2.5 weeks until the start of the season. You still have the opportunity, Griff, to cash in on some value here. And certainly I think when you talk about drafting over these next, 20 some days, I think you have to look at that in the back of your head. Well, if this guy gets hurt, look at the value I could get in this guy. It certainly changes the way we think about drafting now in August than what it was in February.
It's definitely part of it. Yeah. And that doesn't, if you're drafting someone because of an injury, you don't need to draft them all season. You might only be taking them for a month. And then, you realize things didn't work out and, you can stop for a while. You can move on to other things. But if you're drafting all off season, you have the pockets of time in the drafts.
We hear that about drafting early, and Balky, I think you and Griff are right on top of it because, I had a guy complaining about injuries in October of last year. I said, man, if you hadn't drafted so early, if you had waited to week 6 and drafted, in the contest to start in week 6, how perfect that would have been for you.
Yeah.
So you got to look into that for next year. I would hate for anyone to miss the opportunities to draft early because it obviously prepares you for the year. It gives you a deep understanding of who the players are. And you know what? When you draft early and you understand who the players are and you get a player that's hurt, you shrug your shoulders and say, I'll be okay, because when that draft ended, there were 5 or 6 other guys that I still would have liked to have drafted.
I just look at it from the standpoint, guys are going to get hurt in the regular season as well. You have to be prepared, no matter where you're drafting, for these injuries to pop in. And Griff, I'll lead things off tonight with the New York Jets. Speaking of injuries, it was reported on this would have been Tuesday of this week that Breece Hall is going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. This according to Aaron Glenn, the head coach of the New York Football Jets. It was a groin strain. He left Monday's practice. Glenn said that the injury he didn't think was a big deal, but it is, and maybe 2 to 3 weeks in the preseason isn't a big deal. I don't know. But he is expected to be ready for week 1 of the season. The thing of it is, and I always say, Griff, we draft with our eyes. So if we're not seeing a player on the field, he is going to fall in high-stakes drafts. Regardless, whether that's right or wrong, that's just the way it goes. A lot of people were thinking that Hall was going to continue his trajectory in how good of a fantasy player he's been on a bad offense this year, and maybe could be the best season of his career. But a multi-week preseason injury certainly isn't great for that. He might be ready for week 1. We think he's going to be ready for week 1, but Griff, there's no guarantee that he's ready for week 1. Braylon Allen is the next guy up in that, and I'll just bring this up in the FFPC Big Gorilla. Over the last 2 days, you're looking at Breece Hall being drafted as running back number 14 at the 309. That is the price that you have to soak into Breece Hall right now. But I think, Griff, this is fascinating because anytime we get an injury like this where it sucks that the guy isn't playing, right? But he should be out there for week 1 of the NFL season. Ostensibly, this shouldn't affect the way that we draft him, but I think it does. What do you do with Breece Hall? Do you buy the dip or do you let somebody else take him knowing that he's probably entering in the 2026 season with an injury?
So for me, we still have 3 weeks left. I'm not super worried about it in terms of running back. I think Jeremiah Love is also hurt, so it's not like you're not rushing to take him too. Personally, for me, I'm not bringing Javonte up past him. I'm not bringing Kyron Williams up past him. What I would do probably is I might use that spot to take a couple receivers that maybe I like instead. But in terms of running backs, I think he shouldn't really fall very far for me.
I think it's player dependent too, guys, and you can't throw the blanket over it and say, "Oh, he's missing the preseason." That's a problem. For some players, it's a gift. They absolutely
running backs, or what do you mean?
Any position. Okay. You miss the preseason. You take mental reps. You take care of your body. These are things that will help you play football during the year and may keep you healthier and fresher on the field longer. Now you mentioned Jeremiah Love, and it's very good. Very good to bring that player up as a first-year player. He might need those reps more than a Breece Hall. He might need those reps more than other veteran players. But it's preseason is training camp is a watered-down experience for a reason. It has been the hours that players can practice have all been changed over the years through the collective bargaining agreement. And most of it is to give players more mental work than physical work. Players are physically ready. If they've got an injury, they need to heal the injury. They'll come back physically ready. It doesn't mean that they're not going to be mentally ready. And it may mean that they'll be chomping at the proverbial bit, Balky and Griff, to get back to it. So I'm not training staffs are designed to get these guys ready for week 1 and beyond. And so missing these preseason games for talented players doesn't mean a whole lot to me. So there's my thing on Hall. I don't think it should affect his draft position, and if it does, and you're a Hall believer, you ought to draft him. I'm just glad they stayed in the league long enough. Walker and Hall. When we started with Walker, he was a 7th round draft pick, and Hall was going very early, and now Walker is going in front of Hall, which I thought it should have been that from day one. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of high-stakes players that would agree with you on that, Ferrell. Griff, I'll let you –
They didn't back then. Griff, they didn't back then, back when I said it.
Yes.
They rolled their eyes, Griff. They rolled their eyes.
Some of them did. Not everybody, but some of them did. Griff, I'll let you weigh in on this, but Ferrell, I want to ask you about this. Does that also apply to Luther Burden, who's expected to miss the remainder of training camp in the preseason? Wide receiver 23, he has now fallen into the 5th round. Is this another guy that you'd be buying the dip on because people are unfairly letting him fall because of this injury?
Yes, I got to know more about his injury a little bit because of a lower body injury for a young receiver can be problematic. But also developing rapport with the quarterback. But I have a feeling that that's already there. I'd look a little deeper into that situation because of the other wide receiver talent that they've got there. He's keeping pace with his teammates. This is a situation where in camp, the competitive situation there amongst those players is different than what you might have at a Pittsburgh or a Houston, a Minnesota, something like that.
Griff, we have seen videos from Luther Burden, not only running routes, but cutting, obviously, on that groin or whatever it was that he's dealing with right now. Are you also buying the dip on Burden at this point? I know it's not on the show sheet, but I'm just kind of curious on how you feel about a player who is in an offense where his head coach says he wants to be the highest scoring team of all time this year, ostensibly as the number 1 wide receiver. Your thoughts on buying Burden in the early 5th round in Big Gorilla drafts right now?
Yeah, I'm not worried about that injury either. I was when it first happened as someone who has a lot. But he seems okay. It seems like they're being precautionary. It seems like they know what they've got after how good he was to end last year. And Ben Johnson said a million times that he's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown this year for them. So I think they're playing it safe. I'm not worried about it at all.
See, we got a man here, Balky, that does not live in fear.
No fear.
We're trying to coach that, right? You have coached that into me. don't draft in fear, and I haven't been, which is good. By the way, in the FFPC main event, Luther Burden currently over the last couple of days, wide receiver 22, he's still a 4th round pick there. He's still going ahead of DJ Moore. He has not fallen behind Terry McLaurin. Parker Washington also dealing with an injury right now. He's still ahead of Parker Washington. If you want to take advantage of that Luther Burden ADP, if you feel like that's too high and you want to let him go and take advantage of DJ Moore, whatever, myffpc.com is where to go. For the main event, you can compete against guys like Griff Bushell and Ferrell Elliott in the Fantasy Football Players Championship main event. After you buy that initial team, $600 off is what you're going to get for each additional team after that. Register now, myffpc.com, live drafts and slow drafts going on until the start of the NFL season, myffpc.com. Griff, we go from Chicago, not too far, to Indianapolis, of all places, to talk about the new wide receiver they have there. It is one Keenan Allen. 1 year, $8.32 million is the contract he signed, according to Jordan Schultz, the NFL insider. The Colts, and by the way, Griff, there's a lot to unpack here. Keenan Allen gets signed by Indy. What does this mean for Alec Pierce as he recovers from ankle surgery? What does this mean from the undersized Josh Downs, who we thought was going to be playing on the outside, maybe not so much anymore with Keenan Allen playing out there, maybe Downs moving into the slot? What does this mean for Tyler Warren, who went down on Wednesday with a groin injury, and we don't know exactly the severity of that. Or at least, at this point, we don't know the exact severity on how long this is going to keep Tyler Warren out. What I think is compelling about this is Jordan Tyson goes down the day after Keenan Allen signs this deal with Indy. And I wonder how aggressive New Orleans would have been if they knew that Tyson was going to miss 2 months. If they would have signed Keenan Allen to go in New Orleans, we don't have to deal with that as fantasy owners. We know he's going to be in Indianapolis. 34 years old, not a spring chicken. A guy that has, if you look at the all-time catch list in the NFL, I think Keenan Allen is he's for sure top 15. He might be top 10 of all time. And he could move further up that list this year. He has never been a field flipper, right? He's never been a lid lifter. That's not what he does, which I think is interesting, Griff, when you think about Indianapolis. Tyler Warren does a lot of underneath stuff, right? Josh Downs does a lot of underneath stuff. Alec Pierce is the guy that's going to be the field stretcher this year. And so I wonder the impact that Keenan Allen, not necessarily, Griff, that he's going to be this great fantasy maven in mid rounds or like the double-digit rounds in FFPC Main Event or Big Gorilla drafts right now, but how he affects Tyler Warren, how he affects Josh Downs. And quite frankly, I know a lot of people will read this signing into, this is really bad news for Alec Pierce's ankle. They are complementary players. Allen does not do the same things that Alec Pierce does. So I'm wondering how you read this situation, not only for Keenan Allen, Griff, but Downs, Warren, Pierce, so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's definitely a little concerning. That's not nothing in terms of money. $8 million is a pretty good amount. Keenan Allen killed Rome Odunze his rookie year. He killed Ladd McConkey last year. I hope it doesn't happen with Josh Downs again. I do like Josh Downs, but all of them being over the middle is starting to be a little concerning. And to me, it actually is a little concerning for Jonathan Taylor because I think without Pierce going downfield and everyone short over the middle, it could be really hard to find some room to break some runs, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the under-talked portion of this as well, Ferrell. We know that I would say within the last week or so, I've seen Jonathan Taylor slip in high-stakes drafts in the FFPC, and I wonder if this is going to continue that slippage. Your read on the Colts offense right now that Keenan Allen is joining the fray, we get excited about an addition like this, but we also have to understand what this addition means for the other guys that were already there and how we were drafting those players.
It makes everything better because the chains keep moving. And when Pierce – I believe from what I'm hearing, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but, there were a lot of naysayers about Pierce's health. Pierce is scheduled to be back for week 1. It's very optimistic that he comes back for week 1. It's a preeminent downfield wide receiver. Now you bring Allen back in, just think what you had with Pittman. I think perhaps what you're dealing with is everyone's fantasy take was that those targets and receptions that that Pittman left town with belonged to Downs, and that was not that I never really thought that, although, Downs is an ascending player and a very good player, but I've never bought the idea that he's going to be that big a difference maker for you in fantasy football. Let's look at it with a veteran quarterback that could stand in the pocket last year. Allen caught 81 passes. He caught a few touchdowns, and that's exactly what you need to do with a player like Daniel Jones is to move the sticks. You don't need him to get to average more than 11 or 12 yards a catch, but you need a dependable guy that will catch the ball, and that's who this is. And it's going to be a pleasure to watch in this offense. I would say, I don't think anyone is aggressively drafting Daniel Jones, but why wouldn't you once you add Keenan Allen as you begin to understand how many rushing touchdowns Jones had last year in limited time, and you can project that out to where he might be closer to the tops of the league. And about the tight end, all I can say, I just is an exciting player. I wish he was healthy.
Yeah.
Griff, we got a couple guys that play here in Kentucky named Brad Pitre and Darren Larson. They call themselves FPI, and they're really great guys. And Larson drafted Mo Alley Cox every year for 5 years, a convincing playing partner. And Petra would just his face would turn about the color of your shirt, every time he would see that Mo Alley Cox would. I don't know what you do if you don't have a tight end like Warren on the field for the Colts.
And by the way, Fantasy Mojo, Darren Armani, who runs the Pros versus Joes, get a subscription to fantasymojo.com if you're playing in the FFPC. He posted this on X on Wednesday afternoon. Prior to Keenan Allen signing with the Colts, basically 2/3 of FFPC Big Gorilla Leagues, Keenan Allen wasn't even drafted. And now we see him going as a 10th round pick, as an 11th round pick. And I wonder, as Darren pointed out on X, what is this going to do to that first fab run on September 9th? Like, it's going to be crazy how many people are going in on Keenan Allen this year. And a lot can change, Ferrell. I'll let you go ahead in a second. But a lot can change between now and September 9th. Maybe Keenan Allen has a groin injury or something like that. I don't know, but there's a lot that can happen.
I never understood, Griff, I never understood why all the talk was Samuel and all the talk was Diggs. But there was zero talk with Allen. And I would say, Allen's likely to sign somewhere. And then nobody, people would just stare at me. They'd be sitting there, just stare. There's no commentary, no anything. He's going to be a contributor to this offense. He's going to be a big contributor to fantasy teams.
Dan Williamson, who is the host of the Dominator on the Player Profiler Podcast Network, I have him on my shows, one of my shows, every year. And last year, right around this time, maybe it was a little bit earlier, but he was drafting Keenan Allen super late, right? And I said, why do you keep drafting Keenan Allen? He's not on a team yet. Why would you be signing this? Again, I want to reiterate, this was last year. He said this. And he said, Balky, he's going to be on a team. He's going to sign somewhere. And at some point, when he signs, his ADP is going to shoot up. Well, quite frankly, that same logic is happening in 2026, where he is shooting up draft boards right now that he is in Indianapolis. Is it the best landing spot? Is it better than the Chargers? Is it better than the Bears? That remains to be seen. My guess is no, but I don't know. Like, we'll see what happens. And obviously the Warren injury will dictate, what Allen's doing and sort of his usage at the start of the year. But I know what the Colts did last year with a healthy Daniel Jones, and it was really, really good at the start of the year until he got hurt. And I just think about Keenan Allen in that situation and where you can get him right now. I know it's not a sexy pick, but it might be a pick, guys, that could pay off big time. Okay, Griff, I want to throw this back to you, and we'll lead off with our emails here tonight. God, we're already a half hour into the show. We've gotten to nothing, and I apologize for everyone. Well, we got into some stuff, but we've gotten to the meat of the listeners right now and the viewers we'll get into right now. This is Al in San Francisco, Griff. I know he's on a bad offense again, but do you believe in Garrett Wilson? Thanks, Griff. That is Al in San Francisco. Okay, so Garrett Wilson right now, I'm looking at the FFPC. I'll throw up the Big Gorilla here for ADP on this, Griff. When we look at Garrett Wilson, he is going off the board on average as wide receiver number 18. He has fallen to the 403. Egbuka, despite the injury, the potential turf toe. McConkey, Zay Flowers, Devonta Smith, they're all in front of him. And maybe that's fine. Like maybe you can take those guys in front of him. But if you want to take Garrett Wilson, Griff, you have to soak an early 4th-round pick into him. Is that the type of business you want to be doing in fantasy football in 2026?
Definitely a tough one. I think everyone knows that Garrett Wilson is a good player. Nobody's questioning that. He was a good prospect. He was, I believe, the 10th pick. But he just hasn't, in 4 seasons, he hasn't had the big season yet, which is why I think he's stuck in this 4th round. He hasn't had great quarterback play. He's survived Zach Wilson, Tyrod Taylor. He did have Rodgers for a year, but he just can't really break through. So I'm hopeful that Geno Smith will bring something out of him. He had a bad year last year as well. But I think it's worth it at the 4-3. I probably wouldn't take him over those guys that you mentioned, maybe Egbuka, but I don't think that price is bad at all. And he has very little target competition. Yeah. I believe in Adonai Mitchell resurgence a little bit, but they really don't have anybody else. Sadiq's hurt. Isaiah Williams is getting hype. I mean, we're getting to the depths of this depth chart. And,
Ferrell, before you weigh in on this, Griff, let me ask you this. Let's play a quick would you rather. Would you rather draft Garrett Wilson or T. Higgins?
I'd probably take T. Higgins.
Would you rather draft Garrett Wilson or Jalen Waddle?
I'd probably take Jalen Waddle.
Would you rather draft Garrett Wilson or Teteroa McMillan?
Garrett Wilson for sure.
And then the last one, Garrett Wilson or DJ Moore?
Garrett Wilson for sure.
All right, so it's interesting because Wilson is going at the 403. Technically, Higgins and Waddle are behind him, but Ferrell, I'm with Griff on this. If I'm looking at a receiver in the early 4th round, I would rather draft Higgins. I would rather draft Waddle. McMillan, it's so close between.
That's a close one.
McMillan. It is very close. I don't know which way I would go between Wilson and McMillan. I'd probably go Wilson, but it's very close. I'll let you weigh in on Garrett Wilson, the New York Jet in 2026, Ferrell.
What's our man Hubbard say down there in Houston, Baltimore?
Always draft good players.
And always draft good players with good teams. Denver's a good team, so Waddle. That's a good decision. Great passing offense there in Cincinnati. So Higgins, the other players you mentioned, not as much as a sure thing. I think Garrett Wilson would respond with an immediate chemistry with Geno Smith. One of the great things about Geno Smith is players love him. The hardest guy on Geno Smith is Geno Smith. Look, Griff broke it down beautifully for us. This is not the worst quarterback Garrett Wilson's ever played with. And I think there were significant numbers. So I want to break this player down by the numbers. I think 85 catches, 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns. Those are big, big numbers. And you can win in fantasy football in the 4th round with those numbers. So why not?
I always bring it back when we talk Garrett Wilson. If you extrapolate, again, I know this was a small sample size in 2025, but if you extrapolate that out, what he was on pace for before his injury, it would have been right on par with his 1,000+ yard, 80+ catch seasons prior to that. So, and that was with poor quarterback play. Now, whether that would have held up over the course of the season, I don't know, but he was on pace for it. And that is our Garrett Wilson conversation for tonight. A guy who gets short shrift on this show. So we'll try to bring up more Garrett Wilson going forward. All right. Speaking of receivers, Griff, let me throw this at you. Another email coming into us from Jim in Atlanta. Maybe a Falcons fan, maybe not. I don't know. Given his age and potential touchdown regression coming, am I better off letting someone else draft Davante Adams? So Davante Adams, and I'll bring this up. I'll bring up the FFPC Baby Gorilla ADP. Over the last 3 days here, we see the former Packers, former Raiders, former Jets wide receiver going off as wide receiver 25. He's at the 5'10". He's actually going right ahead of the guy who sort of quasi-replaced him in Green Bay, and Christian Watson, who's wide receiver 26 at the 5'10". Mike Evans and Rome Odunze also going at that 5'6" turn behind Adams. Adams going behind the aforementioned Burden, Moore, and Terry McLaurin right now. The FFPC Baby Gorilla is your gateway into high-stakes fantasy football. Just $125 to enter, $100,000 grand prize. You're still placing waivers. You're still making lineup changes. You're doing everything that you would in a high-stakes tournament just at $125 entry fee, and you can still win six figures. Register now, myffpc.com, myffpc.com. Devontae Adams at wide receiver 25. Griff, is that an investment that you're interested in, or would you rather go with somebody who maybe does not have the age of Adams, who maybe does not have the regression coming? I think one of the worst things we can do as high-stakes fantasy players is pay for previous year's stats. We want to pay for this year's stats. Where do those come in with Devontae Adams this season?
Yeah, I think the age is a good point. He is definitely getting up there, but every time I watch him, I'm saying to myself, Devontae Adams still kind of has it. Like, he doesn't look too bad like some of these other guys start to as they get older. And I get the regression thing, especially on the goal line. He had an unbelievable amount of 1- and 2-yard touchdowns last year, but I think that's just kind of what the Rams are going to do again. Puka, for how good he is, doesn't catch a ton of touchdowns. You know, they have the two running backs that obviously can score, but Stafford's not running in any. So they have plenty of touchdowns to go around as you know, probably the highest scoring team, if one of the highest. So I'm okay with Devontae Adams. I think those guys you mentioned, Odunze, Watson, are also kind of in the same area, but after them, it really goes off a cliff. So I don't mind grabbing Adams there before it gets ugly.
Why not? You know, guys, Balky says it, Griff, all the time. TDs are the most difficult thing to predict. And Adams had a beautiful year with them last year, but they're not so difficult to predict when you have the MVP quarterback throwing you the ball. And so I'm all in on Adams as well.
What's interesting about this situation, guys, reportedly the Rams went after A.J. Brown, but they decided to bow out because of knee concerns or whatever. And Sean McVay actually said in his press conferences that they had talked about Devontae Adams, about potentially moving him, potentially trading him to a different team, which I think is important in regards to how they think about him and what they think he is going to be doing this year. I'm with you guys mostly on what you said. When it comes to stuff inside the 10, inside the 5, this is not an offense that likes to slam it in with Corum or Williams. They'll throw it, and they have thrown it with Adams. And I spent in Northeast Wisconsin several years watching what Mike McCarthy was doing with Devontae Adams inside the 10, inside the 5 with Aaron Rodgers, another capable veteran quarterback. And sometimes I think when you get that close to the end zone, being on a different level where it's just like, you know, it's muscle memory and you know where that receiver is going to be if you're the quarterback. I think that takes precedence, right? And I think while we see an unnatural amount of touchdowns from Adams in 2025, Stafford should be able to do that again. And I don't see any reason for this Rams offense slowing down. And when it gets down to the end zone, we could see Adams replicating this again. Now, I'm all about, and I've said this on this show numerous times, NFL football is a young man's game. And by and large, I'm probably going to be clicking on the younger guy, the Watsons, the Odunzes or whatever. But I like Adams better than Evans for sure. And I think when we get up to, you know, McLaurin versus Adams, that's another conversation that I think it's going to be close for me. Probably still going McLaurin, but I could see Adams in a few of my leagues as well. That's, I mean, the Devontae Adams thing, and I know this is a horrible way of wrapping this up. I don't know where I stand on this yet. I'll be drafting him in some spots, but I'll be drafting other people in other spots. It's not like it's an automatic click for me at that point. And
you got another week to figure it out.
Well, it's not even, Ferrell, it's not even a matter of figuring it out. It's a matter of like, I look at, like, I don't want to have Adams on all these late August teams I'm drafting. I'll have him on some of them, but I just don't want to be relying on him being my number 2 or number 3 receiver on every single one. And that's where I stand on that. Okay.
Oh, you can say that about any player, Balky.
No, not every player.
You're a man of the league.
Well, Griff, how do you stand on that? You when you draft multiple teams, are you looking for more of a variance?
Yeah, I'm pretty flat on exposures. I'll get to maybe 20-25% on people, but there won't be anybody that I'm 50% on like a lot of the people out there.
Yeah,
I try to draft Derrick Henry twice in every team.
In the same league, you're trying.
Yeah,
to
200%.
Yeah, exactly.
God, can you imagine that? An FFPC main event team with your number 1 and number 2 running backs being Derrick Henry, both of them. That'd be tremendous. I don't know if it'll ever happen. Maybe we can do that. We'll offer special leagues in the FFPC going forward. I don't know. Right now, you can't do it. Griff, we go back to you in Detroit. Mike in Portland, Oregon writes, what's up, Griff? I know how bulky. Oh, this is good. I know I've been talking a lot. I won't talk a lot about this one. What's up, Griff? I know how bulky feels about Sam Laporta, but what about you? How much of a target is he for you in FFPC drafts? Right now, in the FFPC Big Gorilla ADP, we see Sam Laporta going off the board as tight end 7, literally right in front of Harold Fannin, and also literally right behind Tucker Kraft. I'll let you wax poetic on what you think about Sam Laporta in 2026 drafts right now.
Yeah, I like Laporta. I certainly like him more than Fannin and Pitts. Kraft is a tough one. The Lions fell apart last year when Laporta got hurt. I think they were probably about 6-3, and they missed the playoffs. So they know what they lost with Sam Laporta. I think they're going to try to find a way to make it up. They lost 8 touchdowns from Montgomery. Tesla had 6 touchdowns, and he's not having a good camp. So I think there's a lot of touchdowns out there that are available, and obviously Gibbs and Amon-Ra, everyone will get a few, but I like Laporta, to get a few of them as well.
We've got to watch the press, guys, very, very carefully on Laporta. I don't know if this, we saw 86, and then we saw 60-something, and then we saw 40. And yes, he's missing time, but we hate to talk about players being injury prone, but man, this is just a situation where the guy's having a hard time with his body. And it's based on where we have to draft him. He's in that second tier of tight ends, right, Balky? He's, people are, and there's some good tight ends that go behind him. This is a player I'm going to be very, very cautious with for this season, because I like the tight end talent throughout the league, and I don't think I want to take this risk. We had our guest last Wednesday night. He's not taking risk on CMC because of the injury, and CMC's coming off a stellar year. And, this player's coming off a year where he ended up with surgery. And, Balky, what's that you always say about backs?
Nobody ever says they used to have a bad back.
There you go. So, I'm we're not living in fear, but we are living in reality for a talented player that's got a lot of issues here.
I'm just going to say this about Laporta, and I know I said I wouldn't talk a lot about him.
But you are.
I'm going to probably talk a little
Carry
bit.
on.
Tight end 7 in the FFPC Best Ball Tournament, a tournament that features a $400,000 grand prize, as opposed to $300,000 for first place last year. $400K draft for $125 now. MyFFPC.com. You don't have to worry about waivers on this one. Set it and forget it. Once you draft it, you'll just see how the team does throughout the season. And Laporta is tight end 7 at the 602 there. While I will echo what Ferrell is saying about the injury concerns, I also think about the advantage that Laporta could provide you in this format. Yeah, I mean, maybe he doesn't have the target share that Kraft will, but Kraft is coming off a torn ACL. Yeah, maybe he doesn't have the upside of Harold Fannin, but Harold Fannin's offense is going to score like 2/3, maybe even half the touchdowns that the Lions are going to score this year. And then you get up to the Tyler Warrens of the world in the 3rd round, which, you're not competing with Warren versus Laporta there. Laporta plays on a team that has already, it's not even like a matter of what the coach says. This is what they've done. It doesn't matter if they're up and winning and the game is in tow. They run up the score. They will pulverize you. They don't care. They will continue to score points. They don't pull their starters. And I think when you talk about the Lions this year, having that 4th place schedule, having the mentality of being disrespected by not making the playoffs, and having a healthy Laporta this year, I do think that we have to bring that in the conversation. Yes, Ferrell could 100% be right that this back injury flares up and we see a lot more of St. Brown, Williams, and Tesla out there rather than Laporta. But at the same time, I understand that this dude 2 years ago was the tight end one, that this guy is a pedigreed player, a guy that can put up buku points for you in FFPC tight end formats. Scott Barrett from Fantasy Point says all the time, upside wins championships. This is the upside that could win you a championship. It could blow up in your face, but listen, nobody ever got rich from not taking chances. So I'm in on Laporta in the early 6th round, officially going forward. Okay, Griff, we throw it back to you in an email from Gary in Norfolk, which I assume is Virginia. Hi, Griff. How are you handling the Pittsburgh backfield in your FFPC leagues this season? So this is, and thank you for the email, Gary. Griff, this has kind of been polarizing with Rico Dowdle, with Jalen Warren, and how this Steelers offense is going to operate under new head coach Mike McCarthy. How have you been handling this? Splitting the difference, ignoring both, targeting Warren over Dowdle, or vice versa? What's going on with the Griff Bushell Pittsburgh Steelers shares this year?
Yeah, I would say I'm about average on both of them. I can see this. I can see the case for both. McCarthy had Dowdle in Dallas, of course, so he's got the familiarity there. I think he's probably going to be the early down back. Dowdle would be, and you would think Warren would be more of the Gainwell role from last year, which Rodgers loved. I'm not sure Gainwell will be able to do it as well, or Warren will be able to do it as well as Gainwell did. So that remains to be seen, but he should have more of the high value touches, I think. So I would probably prefer Warren to Dowdle. I do think one thing that I've been thinking about, which is a little galaxy brain, is this is Rodgers last year. It would not surprise me at all if, at least toward the end of the year, if they are eliminated from the playoffs, Rodgers makes it a little more pass heavy of an offense as he goes out, especially at the goal line. I think he could pad the stats a little, and that could hurt Warren. I might be crazy going that far, but that's just in the back of my mind.
I think that's great imagination.
Yeah, it is. It is. But Griff, if he is padding the stats more, I mean, wouldn't that make much more sense for Warren to be out there rather than Dowdle?
He would be out there. I more so meant at the goal line, like a quick audible to Pittman or to Metcalf over the middle. But
I got
Warren could be out there and benefit from it. But yeah.
Okay, Ferrell. Listen, this is interesting conversation when it comes to Warren versus Dowdle, because we know the success Dowdle had under McCarthy in Dallas, but we also know Aaron Rodgers as a guy who's just a couple of years younger than me. I wouldn't want to get hit on an NFL field. I'd be dumping it off whenever I could, and Jalen Warren would probably be the recipient of those dump offs. How do you feel about that Steelers running back tandem, and how you want to be in business with Dowdle versus Warren?
I'm a big Dowdle fan. I think he overcame a lot of challenges to play. I see the benefit of both players. I think each player, if you really understand the Pittsburgh team, each player could have a utility role for you on your fantasy team. I don't think we're looking at a 70 catch back, but what's the difference for us with a 60 catch back and a 70 catch back? Those 60 catches are still very, very valuable. So I'm willing to live with that. I will remind you guys, Pittsburgh Steelers were 10-7. They went to the playoffs last year, and they're even a better team this year, I think. So that's what I look forward to seeing. And I think they'll be playing meaningful games throughout the year. And, these guys will be leaned on equally, but they will be leaned on as you go forward.
I believe the Steelers, once again for the second straight year, sport the NFL's most expensive defense. The offensive line has been upgraded. The receiver room has obviously been upgraded with the addition of Michael Pittman. You have Dowdle and Warren in the same backfield, something you didn't have last year. And then the tight ends, too, with Washington and with Freiermuth. There is a lot to be said for how potent this offense could be. So I'm with Ferrell. A team that went 10-7 last year and made the playoffs. This team could be better this year. And, oh, by the way, in regards to Aaron Rodgers, if you're loving up his and we haven't even talked about Jeremy Bernard, who's been kind of hit or miss in camp, but his hits have been big. Aaron Rodgers is quarterback 28 right now in the FFPC Superflex Best Ball Tournament. You can get him in the 8th round there, ahead of Mendoza, Geno Smith, Tunga Bailoa. He's going behind the likes of Jacoby Brissett and Bryce Young, who aren't even guaranteed to finish the season as the starting quarterback for their teams. Aaron Rodgers, quarterback 28. If you want to cash in on that, myffpc.com is where to go. It is the world's largest Superflex Best Ball Tournament of its kind. myffpc.com, $100,000 grand prize, just $35 to enter. Don't be a wish I had. Play the FFPC Superflex Best Ball Tournament at myffpc.com. We move on, Griff. Next email coming in to us from, God, is this the last email of the night? I think it is. Holy cow, did we go through? Yeah, we went through everything tonight. Okay, last email of the night, Griff. I apologize. I thought we had more to talk about with you, but that's okay. Dan in Manhattan. I've heard a lot of talk about Christian Watson, Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed, and Matthew Golden, but not much on Jordan Love. Why is that? That is Dan in Manhattan. Good luck in Pros versus Joes and the main event. Thank you, Dan. And I think this email rings true, Griff, when it comes down to the Packers offense, right? We've heard question marks about Josh Jacobs and the health of Marshawn Lloyd and whether he can keep that up. And I've heard a lot of people talk about Watson being this massive player that you want to be in on this year. And quite frankly, I've been drafting him a lot. Tucker Kraft, who was the tight end 1 or tight end 2, I can't remember, at the point he went down with the torn ACL at Lambeau Field against the Carolina Panthers. Matthew Golden, who is probably going to be playing in 2 wide receiver sets for Green Bay this year with no Dontavian Wicks and no Romeo Doubs. And Jaden Reed, who has his collarbone and his foot fixed for this season. A lot of people have been bullish on them. Why do you think, Griff, that people are not as bullish on Jordan Love in a year when you can get him really cheap?
I have no idea. I think you crushed it. I think his ADP is probably the most shocking on the entire website. It is like literally free. People say that all the time that he's free. He is literally free. I think it's like the 15th or 16th round. Jordan Love's gotten better every single year, in my opinion. And as you said, the running back situation is very questionable. Jacobs is probably going to be the answer, but you never know. There's no question marks with the receivers, as you said, or the tight end. They lost Romeo Doubs. Not really concerned about that. I think they have more than enough to replace it. So if I miss that top tier of the rushing quarterbacks, of the Daniels and the May and the Hurts and stuff like that, I'm just waiting, and I'll probably take 2, and Love's probably going to be one of them at the end there because he's so easy to stack too. You're probably going to have a Packer just by process of elimination.
That's a true fact. Love is he'll just drive you crazy. His quarterback rating is always near the top. He doesn't throw the ball away in interceptions. He is mobile, but he never runs for a touchdown. Last year, a goose egg on touchdowns. I think that's where the problem is. I think if he would actually run the ball for a score, he would move up the draft boards. 3,300 yards is, I want a 4,000-yard quarterback in fantasy football, and I want him to run a little bit. And Watson. If Watson helps him elevate the game, so be it. A healthy tight end could bring it all together. There's no reason not to take a flyer on him, but I will probably wait this year and see if he develops into that kind of rushing quarterback that can actually put the ball in the end zone.
Griff, let me do a would you rather on Jordan Love as well. Would you rather draft Jordan Love or Daniel Jones?
Jordan Love.
I agree. Jordan Love or Sam Darnold?
Jordan Love.
I agree. Jordan Love or Baker Mayfield?
That's a close one, but I'm still probably Love.
I will go Mayfield at that point. Jordan Love or his backup last year, Malik Willis?
I'm still going Jordan Love.
It's interesting you say that because I think Love probably has the better year, but I'm willing to take the chance in managed leagues where I can cut Willis or whatever.
I agree.
Flames out. Then I'll take Willis. But best ball, yes.
100%.
Over Willis.
All Griff needs is Love, Balky.
Right, yeah.
But I'm going to draft Daniel Jones in front of him.
Yeah, and I see that. But I don't know. to me, like I just see this situation developing in Green Bay with Josh Jacobs probably in his last year in Green Bay. I can't imagine any rational person thinking Marshawn Lloyd is going to stay healthy for all 17 games.
This is the year. This is the year.
Well, this is the year.
Oh, there's that rational person.
He starts off healthy. I don't know what's going to happen after that. Let me complete this would you rather with you, Griff. Jordan Love or Tyler Shough?
That's a good one. That's really close.
Ooh.
I'm probably Tyler Shough.
Yeah, there you go, buddy.
I agree. And then the last one we'll do. Actually, yeah, last one we'll do. Jordan Love or Kyler Murray?
I'm definitely Love there. I think there's too big a chance that Kyler Murray is not the starting quarterback by the end of the year, and I think Love definitely is.
So that's where I draw the line with best ball and managed leagues, because in best ball I will take Jordan Love for sure, but in managed leagues, God, it's so tempting that Kyler Murray upside with the legs and everything. Then I would take Murray ahead of him, knowing that I could cut bait if because I'm with you. Like I think especially Minnesota, if they fall out of playoff contention, why wouldn't they play JJ McCarthy down the stretch? So yeah, I'm with you at that point. Griff, wow. This was fantastic. I wish we could go another hour because I feel like we have just barely tapped the upside of what you can bring to this show going forward. I wish you nothing but the best, not only in – by the way, I should ask you this. Pros versus Joes, with your draft that you did, what if I was to ask you, hey, what letter grade, if you were a professor and you were grading all the teams in your league, what letter grade would you give your Pros versus Joes squad?
I think I had a pretty – does anybody ever say they had a bad draft? Probably not. But,
yes, people do. People do.
Okay.
Yes, they do.
Usually they're the champions, Griff. Usually they go on and win. They pitch and moan about the draft. They say, "Oh, it's terrible. Oh, it's," and then they win.
I am known to do that, but no, I'm happy with my draft. I would probably say B+. Okay. I was happy with the beginning. I have looked back on it since then. Some good news, some bad news in training camp since then, but overall, I'm happy with it.
Good. And then normally Ferrell asks this question, but I'll just shoot this in because I know it's a rundown. Is there a player that you are trying to get on all your FFPC teams this year, Griff? And then conversely, a player that FFPC players hold in high regard that will not be on any of your teams this year?
Yeah, so it's not possible to get this person on every team just because of draft slot, but I think Ken Walker is a smash. Yeah. Pretty much anywhere at the end of the first. I would take him there. I was hoping he was going to come to me at the 2-7 in that draft, and he went the pick before me, which was disappointing, but I think he's the easiest pick. I would take him probably as early as the 110, 111. And then in regards to guys I'm not taking, I think it's a couple similar players, Brian Thomas and Marvin Harrison. I'm out on their prices. I think there's just too many other good options on those teams for pass catchers where I'm not going to pay to find out. Maybe I'll regret it, but those are the two guys I wouldn't take at all.
So you are more of a Parker Washington, Michael Wilson guy rather than Thomas and Harrison.
Yes, that is correct.
Griff, listen, a lot of great stuff from you tonight. I've learned a lot. I will have to adjust the way I'm drafting based on some of the things that you've said tonight. You've opened my eyes to a lot. I wish you nothing but the best, not only in Pros versus Joes, but the FFPC main event and all your leagues that you're doing this year as well. Thank you so much for carving out some time with us tonight. Good luck going forward as your role of President, King, and Prince of Rhode Island. We appreciate that. And we will talk with you again very, very soon, my friend. Enjoy fantasy football in 2026.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. I had a great time.
Awesome. That is Griff Bushell, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, follow him on X right now, as I have done, at Griffalicious24. That is GRIFFALICIOUS24. Griffalicious24 on X. Certainly good stuff from him tonight, Ferrell. And I know it may sound hyperbolic, but when we do, and I've said this before, the dirty secret I have with doing this show and doing this stream and this podcast is adjusting my own personal rankings and the way I draft based on these players that have had so much success at the high stakes level. And it just makes me a better player, listening and interviewing these guys and asking the questions, hopefully, that everybody wants me to ask, because I ask the questions I want to know the answers to. And it certainly helps me out being a better drafter.
Balky, that's why everyone tunes in the show. They want to hear, the way you think is the way the fantasy player thinks, and you drive a lot of that. And it's a really great contribution.
KFFSC.com is where to go. Ferrell, I know you are busy. Is it Sunday with the Northern Kentucky draft?
Sunday all day.
Sunday all day.
Sunday all day. We will pile draft boards, trophies, paperwork, organizational things to make the day go. We will then, with Jimmy Johnson in tow and ace facilitator Bumstead coming along with me, we'll then travel to Cincinnati, where we'll be there for 14 hours drafting. Then we'll turn around and come home. And the great thing about it is that we'll have 8 live divisions, and that will kick off. We'll publish those boards where anybody that wants to look at them can take a look at them. But it's really it's a smaller event. It's a low key. It's a big part of our main event, but it's one that I can have a real blast at, and I personally truly enjoy it. And next year's the year we're going to add some auctions where we can make Brad Cruz come. So we're just finding some things that we can do with it to make it more enjoyable. But you will be missed, but we will feel you there in spirit, my friend.
Yeah, former co-host of the show, Dave the Dizzle Gerzak, will be in Northern Kentucky drafting live, which is going to be great. And then I will be in Louisville live a week from today, drafting in the main event as well as a salary cap league, as you pointed out. For people who are wanting to draft in Kentucky, we'd love to have you travel to Louisville to draft. I think we've got about 20 spots left in Louisville coming up a week from today.
We have, perhaps,
but I would say at a minimum 9 spots left for 3 leagues, and then potentially another 4th league. So check that out, KFFSC.com. And if you can't make it to Louisville, the live events, the online events start Wednesday, or not start, they continue Wednesday night, this coming Wednesday night. Oh, no, that was, I'm sorry, that was earlier.
Yes.
They continue throughout the weekend.
Over through the weekend.
Yeah, tomorrow night, 11 p.m. Eastern time. Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time.
Yes, that's the one. Sunday night. Let's ask everybody to join the Sunday nighter.
Basically a live KFFSC event every night until the start of the season. KFFSC.com. Check it out there. Ferrell, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will do this again Wednesday night in our KFFSC preview episode with Dan Flamholtz, the 2025 KFFSC main event champion. Can't wait to do that show. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Dan's a real gentleman, and we'll see him right after that show. So that's great stuff.
Thank you, Ferrell. Be good.
Thank you, buddy.
That is going to wrap up our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, what a great one it was, and I apologize we're going over. I talked a lot on the show tonight, and I don't like to do that when we have great guests like Griff Bushell, and then, of course, Ferrell Elliott, my co-host with the most. FFPC Dynasty and Empire Dynasty Start-Up Leagues, I want to mention. They start off at $100 and they go up to $5,000. Available now at myffpc.com. FFPC Player 1 drafts. If you don't like waiting for your draft to fill, sign up for Player 1, because as soon as you register, you are drafting right away against 11 smart FFPC CPU players for as little as $10, and you can win free cash. Or not free cash prizes, FFPC main event entries, FFPC Big Gorilla entries, and of course the FFPC Chop Leagues as well going off. Just don't be the lowest scoring team in your league and you will win. FFPC, myffpc.com is where to go for Chop Leagues. They start off at $35 and go up from there. That is all at myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live. I will mention that I want to thank Griff Bushell Ferrell Elliott, the FFPC, Rob, Bryce, and of course, each and every one of you. Extra Reps will be back live a week from today at 10 p.m. Eastern Time with former FFPC and KFFSC League champion Dominic Gazzetti. We welcome him back onto these airwaves at 10 p.m. next Friday. This coming Wednesday, as I just mentioned, Dan Flamholtz, the defending KFFSC Main Event champion, will be live with us 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday night to usher in our KFFSC preview episode. And then in case you missed yesterday's Insider Access show on the Better Sports Network, Establish the Run and FFN60's Justin Herzig drafted a live FFPC Best Ball Tournament league with myself. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully you can check it out on the Better Sports Network or FFPC socials and watch that back to see the master do his work there. Next Thursday on the Insider Access show, we welcome back aboard Colby Conway from Fantasy Alarm for 2 hours, 7 p.m. until 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share with your friends, share with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which as of right now will be this coming Wednesday on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour with Dan Flamholtz. Thank you so much for watching. For Ferrell Elliott, for Griff Bushell, I'm Eric Balkman. This has been HSFF Hour Extra Reps. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Yourself.